superclusters can be understood in two ways. The basic way is, if we take Europe, for example, we have around 3,000 clusters. Most of them are quite small. They have very few staff members, they have few employees, and they generally have only a handful of members, limited money, and they're not able to grow the muscles to have really big impact. And what we're seeing internationally is that clusters are kind of moving upwards, and we're probably in Europe going to have fewer clusters. They're going to have more members, more staff, more funding, and they're going to be able to create much more impact. So the short story is superclusters are much bigger, much stronger, and much more resourceful than traditional clusters. So if we look at the cluster policies that we've had in the West, which also includes the US and of course Europe, it has been around the traditional understanding of triple helix. So you have corporates or traditional companies, and then you have research institutes and academia, and then you have the government facilitating that connection, and that's the triple helix. And what we see in more entrepreneurial ecosystems, for example in Singapore, for example in parts of the US, for example parts of China, is that startups, scale-ups, accelerators, incubators, and also private investors, they bring a lot more dynamic skills and attitude. Now, if you're able to combine those, we see that traditional clusters are usually around the triple helix, but to be successful, the superclusters, they need to develop more of that some call it the pentagon model from the original research, some call it the quadruple helix, but it's really getting all 5 stakeholders together. Yeah. Superclusters have been around in the literature and the research for at least 20 years, probably more. So you can go into some of the original research in different sort of research projects, and you will find the term supercluster in that research. Now, very often they point back to, for example, Boston, where they say, around the life sciences, there's a naturally emergent supercluster. You can go to Norway, where they look at the ocean economy and say you have an ocean economy supercluster. So I think that the conversation on supercluster today needs to be anchored in the original research, so we make sure that we carry that research with us as we now develop a better understanding. So connecting 20 years of research into building innovation superclusters is just an obvious link that we should be doing. So that's a good question. So the way that we understand it, superclusters are a natural progression. You don't start out by, we're going to design a supercluster. Just like you don't start out, we're going to build a skyscraper on flat lands with nothing else around. So superclusters today can be built and developed in Transylvania, in Romania. It takes leadership. It takes alignment of policies at the regional and national government level. But mostly it takes people with the vision and the ambition and the drive. And I think that some of the clusters I've been speaking with here today, over a probably 5-year period, they may have a good chance to become superclusters. But obviously it's a lot of work, there's a long development process, but it's possible, yes.
Good news.
No, it is. And again, people I've met here, yes, it can be done. It's not a question of money. That's extremely important. It's not a matter of, we need more money because we're going to build a supercluster. It's really a matter of bringing more relevance to the members, attract more members, shift from local memberships to at least regional in Eastern Europe, but probably for, let's say, the IT clusters here, they have to be able to bring in members from Berlin, from London, from the US. So if you take a company like UiPath on technology, even though they have moved to the US, it's natural that the management team is a part of the cluster here. Mm-hmm. So you have what we call the international bridges to various innovation hotspots. So I would expect a Romanian or Transylvanian supercluster initiative to say, we are here, and then we have really deep connections into Singapore, into Beijing, into Shanghai, into London, into Berlin, and into San Francisco, because it just makes perfect sense.